Caught my girlfriend comparing me to her ex because she wanted more drama in her life. So, I gave her the drama she asked for. Hey Reddit. Let me give you some context. I've been dating my girlfriend, let's call her Emma, for about a year now. When we first met, everything seemed perfect. She was fun, bubbly, and we had great chemistry. But as time went on, I started noticing some red flags that I initially brushed aside. One of those was her tendency to talk about her ex-boyfriend, Jake. At first, it wasn't a big deal. Everyone has a past, right? But the problem was how often she brought him up. Jake did this. Jake did that. Jake used to buy her flowers every week. Jake surprised her with weekend getaways. You get the idea. At first, I tried not to let it bother me. I mean, I'm not Jake, and I didn't want to compare myself to someone I had never met. But after a while, it started to feel like I was living in his shadow. No matter what I did, it felt like she was silently measuring me against this guy. One night, things came to a head. We were sitting on the couch, watching a movie, when she made an offhand comment. She said something like, Jake would have never picked this movie, he had better taste in films. I paused the movie, looked at her, and asked, do you even realize how often you talk about him? She looked surprised, like the thought had never crossed her mind. What do you mean? She asked. I mean, I'm starting to feel like I'm dating you and your ex. Every time I do something, it feels like you're comparing me to him. It's exhausting. She rolled her eyes and said I was overreacting. She claimed that Jake was just a part of her past and that I needed to get over it. But here's the kicker, she then said, well, maybe if you did more thoughtful things like you used to, I wouldn't have to bring him up. That was it. That was the moment I realized I wasn't the problem. I was bending over backward to make her happy, and all she could do was hold me to some impossible standard set by a guy who wasn't even in her life anymore. I decided to let it go for the night, but the comment lingered in my mind for days. Then, about a week later, the situation escalated. We were at a party with some of our mutual friends, and she got a little too tipsy. As the night went on, she started telling one of my friends about how Jake used to make her life so exciting, how he kept her on her toes, and how sometimes she missed the drama he brought into her life. My friend told me about it later, and I was furious. I confronted her when we got home. So, you missed the drama Jake brought into your life? Is that what this is about? You're bored because I treat you with respect and don't cause unnecessary chaos? She looked guilty for a moment but then got defensive. I don't mean it like that, she said. It's just that sometimes, things feel too predictable with you. Jake kept me on edge, and I like that. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So, you want me to start being toxic and unpredictable? You want fights and chaos? That's what you think makes a good relationship? She tried to backtrack, saying she loved me and that she wasn't trying to say I was boring, but the damage was done. It was clear she was holding on to some fantasy of what her relationship with Jake used to be, and I was just a placeholder in the meantime. That night, I slept on the couch. I needed space to think about what to do next. The next morning, I decided I wasn't going to play second fiddle to her ex any longer. If she wanted drama, I'd give her drama, but on my terms. I started by packing up all my things while she was at work. I didn't have much at her place, just a few clothes and some toiletries, but I made sure to grab everything. Then, I wrote her a note and left it on the kitchen counter. It said, if you miss the drama so much, here's a little for you. I deserve someone who appreciates me for who I am, not who I'm not. Good luck finding what you're looking for. I blocked her on social media and deleted her number from my phone. Then, I went back to my place and focused on moving on. Of course, it didn't end there. She called me nonstop when she got home and found the note. She left voicemails alternating between apologizing and yelling at me for being immature. A few of our mutual friends reached out, saying she was devastated and that I should talk to her. But I stood my ground. One of her friends even tried to guilt trip me, saying I overreacted and that Emma just needed time to let go of her past. I told them I wasn't interested in being someone's second choice or emotional punching bag while they figured out their feelings. For a while, I questioned whether I'd made the right decision. Breakups are never easy, and part of me wondered if I should have tried harder to work things out. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I'd done the right thing. Relationships are supposed to be partnerships, not competitions with ghosts from the past. A few months later, I heard through the grapevine that Emma was dating someone new. I couldn't help but wonder if she was comparing him to Jake, too. But honestly, it didn't matter anymore. I was finally free of the constant comparisons and the emotional roller coaster that came with being with her. As for me, I've started seeing someone new, and it's been refreshing to be with someone who values me for who I am. No ex-comparisons, no unnecessary drama, just mutual respect and understanding. It's a reminder that healthy relationships do exist, and I'm glad I walked away when I did. Looking back, I learned a valuable lesson. You can't compete with someone's idealized version of the past. If they're not ready to let go, there's nothing you can do to change that. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is show them the door and walk away with your dignity intact. Update. After I left Emma and blocked her, I thought I was done with the drama. I believed cutting her off would bring me the peace I needed. The relationship had been draining, and every day felt like I was competing against her ex, Jake. But that wasn't the end of it. I had underestimated just how persistent Emma could be. It started with a few text messages. I ignored them at first, telling myself it was just a phase, that she would get the hint and move on. But after a week of silence, she started emailing me. The emails were long, filled with guilt and apologies. She said she was sorry for everything, that she never meant to hurt me. She promised that if I gave her a second chance, things would be different. But even in her apologies, there was something about her tone that didn't sit right with me. It felt more like she was trying to soothe her own guilt than actually considering how her actions affected me. I ignored everything, as hard as it was. I blocked her on social media, deleted her from my contacts, and tried to go on with my life. But that's when things got really strange. I was having dinner with one of my friends at a local restaurant when I saw her walk through the door. I was stunned. It felt like she had intentionally come to that exact spot, knowing I'd be there. She walked straight toward our table, and before I could even process what was happening, she asked if we could talk. I told her no. I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to hear any more empty promises or apologies. But she kept insisting. Eventually, I relented and agreed to step outside with her. I didn't want to cause a scene, but looking back, I should have walked away from that moment, too. She started off with an apology, but I could tell this time it was different. She wasn't apologizing because she truly understood how much she had hurt me. She was apologizing because she didn't like being alone. She even said something along the lines of, "I just can't imagine being without you, I need you back in my life." But I knew it wasn't about me, it was about her fear of being alone. It was about her ego. I told her that I wasn't interested in being her backup plan, her emotional safety net. I wasn't going to let her bounce back into my life just because she didn't want to face the consequences of her actions. That's when she switched gears. She accused me of being cold and immature, of overreacting. She said I was being stubborn and unfair, that I didn't even give her a chance to prove she could change. I was appalled. After everything she put me through, I was the one who had to give her another chance? I was the one who had to work through her unresolved baggage? It was clear that nothing was going to change. She wasn't sorry for how she treated me, she was sorry for getting caught. She wasn't trying to make amends, she was trying to ease her conscience so she could move on without facing any real consequences. I didn't say another word. I just turned around and walked away. I could hear her calling after me, but I kept walking. That night, I blocked her new number. I didn't care if she kept trying to reach me. I was done. I felt exhausted, but also incredibly relieved. For the first time in months, I felt free. I didn't have to worry about measuring up to some idealized version of her past anymore. I was free to move on. Another update. Life started to feel like it was returning to normal. For the first time in a long time, I could focus on myself. I spent more time with friends, started picking up old hobbies, and even thought about dating again. I had moments of weakness, of course. I wondered if I had been too harsh. Maybe I could have given her another chance. Maybe things could have been different. But those moments passed, and I started feeling more confident in my decision. Then, about 2 months after I'd walked away, Emma reached out again. This time, it wasn't through a new number or a random email. She showed up at a party I'd been invited to. I hadn't expected her to be there. She didn't expect me either, judging by the look on her face when she saw me. I tried to avoid her for the rest of the night. It wasn't that I hated her, I just didn't want to deal with the awkwardness. But eventually, she cornered me. She started talking as if nothing had happened. As if we were just old friends catching up. She told me she had been doing a lot of soul searching and that she finally understood where she went wrong. She admitted she had unresolved feelings about Jake, that he still lingered in her thoughts, and that she had been using me as a way to fill the void he left. For a brief second, I almost felt like I should give her some credit. She was at least acknowledging the issues that had been at the core of our relationship. But then, like a light bulb going off in my head, I realized something. She wasn't apologizing for me, she was apologizing for herself. She wasn't sorry for how she treated me, she was sorry because she realized she had lost me and couldn't stand the idea of being alone. She was sorry because she had made a mess of things and needed to clean it up. She kept saying how much she missed me, how much she had learned, and how she was in therapy now. I didn't know whether to believe her or not, but part of me wanted to. I had spent so long trying to make our relationship work, I couldn't help but wonder if things could be fixed. But then she hit me with it. She casually mentioned that she had been talking to Jake again. She said it was for closure, but the way she talked about him was nothing like someone seeking closure. She was still emotionally invested in him, and even though she claimed she was figuring things out, it felt like she had never truly let go of him. It was as if everything I had done for her, the respect I'd given, the effort I put into our relationship didn't matter. I looked at her and told her calmly but firmly that I couldn't be part of this anymore. I wasn't going to compete with a ghost. I wasn't going to wait for her to get over someone else. I told her she needed to go figure things out, but she wasn't going to drag me back into her cycle. It wasn't fair to me. She was devastated, of course. But I had made up my mind. I walked away from her again, and this time, I wasn't looking back. She tried to call me later, even texted me a few times, but I knew in my heart that I was doing the right thing. Final update. It's been 6 months since that party, and I've learned a lot during that time. For one, I realized that letting go of someone isn't always about not loving them, it's about recognizing that love isn't enough if the person you're with doesn't respect you or value you for who you are. I think that was one of the hardest lessons for me to learn. You can't fix someone who isn't ready to be fixed, and you can't love someone into being better for you. Since then, I've made a lot of changes in my life. I've become more focused on my own growth. I've gone back to school, started working on some personal projects, and spent more time with friends who truly care about me. It's been a process, but I've found peace in the fact that I made the right decision to walk away. About a month ago, I started dating someone new. Her name is Rachel, and she's the complete opposite of Emma in all the best ways. She's down to earth, she communicates openly, and she's never once made me feel like I need to compete with someone from her past. It's refreshing to be with someone who's emotionally available and ready to build something healthy. With Rachel, I feel like I can be myself without the pressure of constantly measuring up. As for Emma, I don't know much about her anymore. I've heard through mutual friends that she's been bouncing from relationship to relationship. She's apparently still trying to find herself, still reaching out to Jake and attempting to fix whatever is broken inside of her. It's sad, but at this point, it's not my problem anymore. I've done my part. Looking back, I have no regrets. Yes, there were moments when I questioned myself, when I wondered if I was being too harsh. But those moments are gone now. I've learned that the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away from situations that drain you. Relationships are supposed to be mutual, built on trust, respect, and love. If that's not there, then there's nothing to salvage. To anyone in a similar situation, my advice is this: don't let someone else's emotional baggage hold you hostage. You deserve to be loved for who you are, not for who you could be if you fit into someone else's idea of the perfect partner. Walk away when it's no longer healthy. It's tough at first, but in the end, it's always worth it.